So Will, thanks for helping me with my project. I was wondering if you could start off by talking a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, my name is Will Young. I've been an amateur astronomer since I was probably 9 or 10 years old. Um, I guess it started some winter night, and I went out in the backyard and saw Orion and was like, "Wow, what?" And so I begged my parents for star charts, and I bought every Sky and Telescope magazine off the shelf. I hadn't figured it out that it was cheaper to do the subscription thing as a kid, so I'd mow grass and stuff for chump change to go down to the local supermarket and buy Sky and Telescope off the rack every month, read it cover to cover. I read the ads. I was an obsessed little dude, and all through high school, still the same way. Went to college and kind of lost the observation part of it. But I kept learning the minutia, the fun stuff. This is that far away. This is that, that kind of stuff. And then college trip to the McDonald Observatory back in, I think it would have been 07, 08. We had a perfectly clear night out there for an outreach event that they do. They do 3 a week out at the McDonald Observatory in West Texas. And it was perfectly clear night, and the Milky Way was riding high, and it blew my mind. We saw Jupiter, Saturn. I think we saw Saturn. We definitely saw Jupiter. We saw the Pinwheel Galaxy, just like going through the list of amazing objects. And that was it. That was in 2009. I bought my first small telescope. And then it seems like every year since '09, I've bought a new optical train of some type. But that kind of slowed down after I bought my what I affectionately call the half-meter telescope. It's a 22-inch Obsession ultra compact. Because at the end of the day or night, whatever, however you want to phrase it, I'm a visual observer. I like to set the telescope up, walk up to the eyepiece, look inside, and see what I see. Although I do enjoy photography as well. I'm more of a wide field kind of guy. But yeah, I started a little project on YouTube back in 2016 called Deep Sky Dude. For lack of a better name, that's just what I went with. It was like I checked the URL and it wasn't bought, so I was like, "Hey, cool, all right, score." And I bought Deep Sky Dude and started producing videos. I was making these videos for my astronomy club, the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. I've been the president there for coming up on 9 years, or a little over 9 years, which is insane. It's almost a dictatorship at this point. It's not a presidency anymore. But nobody wants to vote me out. Nobody wants to run against me. So I just keep going. But I was making these videos for the club. Like, hey, I went to the star party. I went to Texas Star Party. Here's a video of kind of the fun that we had. And I was like, I need a place to put these, right? Let the world see them. So I started the YouTube channel, and that's sort of blossomed into a lunar live stream thing on Facebook that I do that blew my Facebook up. It's then progressed into other things like a music thing where I make space music that's ambient instrumental, kind of just spacey kind of vibes. That's under Deep Sky Dude as well. So if you have Spotify, iTunes, or any of that, you can find me there. And on TikTok, which is the newest time-sucking app on the planet. It'll just eat all your time if you give it to it. It's cat videos and hilarious stuff. But I'm on TikTok there at Deep Sky Dude if you want to follow me there. So it's a lot of fun.
That's really awesome. Yeah, talking about TikTok taking your time, I saw an article. It also takes your clipboard too. Apparently, it's constantly polling the clipboard looking for interesting information.
There's Facebook does similar stuff too, because Facebook now owns WhatsApp, Instagram. Well, they own Facebook, obviously. I'm sure they'll own MySpace eventually. They'll probably own it all eventually. But I've heard of some of the security issues, and I'm online looking at cat videos, and posting stuff about the moon and galaxies and stuff like that. So I encourage the FBI or China or whoever wants to come look at my stuff. You'll get educated on space, which is my mission. So that's the main thing about it, I guess, for me.
And you said you're in Southeast Texas. Where are you located?
Yeah, so if you get on I-10, which is like one of the major highways through America, east and west anyway, and you go 100 miles east of Houston, right before you hit the Louisiana border. I'm right there. So we're down in the swamp. Like I was telling you before we started recording, it's just been monsoon season. So no moon casts coming out of my telescope these days. I mean, we've got Saharan dust now. We've got constant rain. We had a tropical storm threat a couple weeks ago, so it's fun living on the coast, I guess, right? But it is what it is.
Yeah, I went to elementary in Beaumont, and I went to middle school and high school in Orangefield.
Oh, well, I live in Groves, Port Arthur, so you know
Uh,
exactly where I live. Wow, small world, man. Cool.
yeah, awesome. Well, did you see this video about this guy in Los Angeles who took his telescope and went around the city and had it pointed at the moon and let people just look in it? It was like,
I'm not sure. That I may know that guy. I'm not sure, but it depends on who it is. There's several people that do that out that way. But okay, I think I know what you're talking about. That where he was in maybe New York or somewhere and was showing people the moon, and they were like, wow, totally blown away. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff, man. That's kind of like my mission, and is to bring scopes out as a club, as the club here in Beaumont. Again with the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. Probably it was around when you were in the area. Where they were formed in '89. I wasn't there, but I became president in 2012, and that's been our main mission here, is to go out to middle schools, high schools, libraries, Starbucks, you name it. We'll bring our telescopes out, throw them out, and just have people come on up. Of course, not right now, because of all the nonsense going on. But as soon as this stuff passes, we will be back with a vengeance, because some of the members are like, man, we need to get back out there. And I'm like, we will, as soon as all this passes. But outreach is pretty paramount to our club. It's kind of I've really shifted the focus from just doing astronomy with a bunch of people to taking our astronomy out to the public. And I think that's like one of my main passions, I guess, if you will.
and do y'all do anything with like solar observation?
Oh yeah, so every year we do a festival called Kids Fest. It's down here in Port Arthur, Texas. It's run by Valero Port Arthur. We take over the Lamar Port Arthur campus basically, and they have inside activities for the kids. Everything's free: food, snow cones, soda, whatever. It's all free. Valero does a really big celebration. It was canceled this year, obvious reasons. But yeah, we bring out white light, which is where you just filter the front of the telescope for white light. Filters out 99.9% of the sun's light, and so you get that 0.1% and you see the sun. And we also do hydrogen alpha. Our club recently bought a Lunt 50 mil hydrogen alpha solar telescope, a telescope built for one star and one star only ever. Which it's a beautiful telescope, though. It shows you the upper atmosphere of the sun, which is, the white light shows you the photosphere, the surface. Even though there is no such thing. But the hydrogen alpha shows you the stuff just above it. So you get kind of the little prominences and filaments that sort of go across and stick out of the sun. And those are always really fascinating for the kids and even adults to see, because it's not a wavelength of light you ever get to see as a non-astronomy person, right? It's always either a picture online or something like that. So to see it with their eye, it really does affect people. And we love it. We do... the Beaumont Children's Museum actually has us out.
Are you still there?
People are like, what? You can't do that. So luckily, there is a little bit of a knowledge there. Is my connection unstable here?
Oh, it was there for a second. You kind of froze.
Okay.
But you're good
I
now.
don't know why it does that. It does that from time to time, but yeah, sorry about that. Internet, what are you gonna do? But yeah, so we do a lot of solar. No. Yeah, we do a lot of solar. We do a lot of lunar around here, and that's that's the brighter stuff that you can really easily reach with an amateur telescope. And our mission here is to get the basics of astronomy out to people and say, look, you don't need a whole crazy expensive setup to view the moon. You can just take a pair of binoculars and something to steady them on, and you're good to go. You can start seeing detail and start your observation. And as you go down the road, pick up a little piece of gear here and there, a new scope, a new camera, a new whatever, and that's how it goes, right? That's how we guys like you and I spend all our money on the telescope world.
Does your club have like a loaner program?
We do. We have the Lunt 50 mil hydrogen alpha telescope is actually part of our loaner program. We bought it for outreach and so that members could, sort of loan it out. You have to go through a safety course, which is like a 2-hour or an hour-long thing where it's like, do not take this apart and look at the sun with it, because your head's gonna explode or something. We try to drive it in that this is something this is the only really inherently dangerous part of astronomy is looking at the sun. So just take a few simple minor precautions, just like you and I are student pilots. There's risks, but if you mitigate those risks, it's all fun. It's all great times. So just mitigate the few risks and get in there and enjoy the view. And so that's what kind of our class is. But yeah, we have several scopes. We're looking to update some stuff, sell off some old equipment, perhaps some antiquated stuff, and just get some new fancy, some of the tracking and all that weird stuff in there, and let our members just go wild with that.
Do y'all have like a dark site or someplace that your members can go and observe?
We do. It's not ours per se. It's a Army Corps of Engineer park that we have a really good relationship with. We have actually 2 sites. One is the Army Corps Park up near the Woodville, Texas area. So, just north of us. Pretty dark, honestly. It's about a Bortle 3, which beats the Bortle 6 that I live on here in, the suburbs. There's still a lot you can do from a Bortle 6. Believe it or not, I've seen planetary nebulae and all kinds of things from here with my 22-inch telescope, of course, but it can still be done. But we go up there when we need dark skies. It's a little park called Magnolia Ridge. So if you're in Southeast Texas and you're out there and you want to do some observing, they love to have astronomers there. And we also have a little park locally near Vidor, Texas, which is called Clayburn Park. And we do mostly like first quarter lunar type nights out there, since the light pollution's a little worse, so we let the moon kind of be up there. We bring Boy Scouts out. Sometimes they'll meet us out there and they'll come over and, mill around our telescopes, ask us questions and that kind of stuff. So, we do, when times are good and we're not all quarantining, we do probably about 1 a month for members. And then every couple of months, we do about 1 star party for the public.
And, the Starlink satellites have been kind of a controversial thing in the astronomy communities. And, lately I've been observing satellites at, dusk, and there's quite a few of them. And they're really bright. And I have yet to see a Starlink satellite, but I've seen like Globestar and, a whole bunch of other satellites I don't know. But how big of an effect does satellites affect your work?
For me, I'm a visual guy, mostly. So when I see a satellite cross through the eyepiece, I'm just like, wow, cool. That's about it visually. Photographically, it's a little bit of a different story. There are things you can do to take those little guys out of there. Sigma clipping and some other post-processing or processing techniques that sort of take those frames and drop them from if you're doing like 1,000 frames on on Messier 51 or something. So you can drop those frames out and not a big deal. Like I said before, I'm more of a wide field guy. I like to set a DSLR on a tripod, point it at the Milky Way and walk off, and just let the Milky Way sort of go across, So you do see a lot more Starlink and GlobeSats and Roscosmos stuff. But to me, that's just like, the zeitgeist for how we live. It's a sign of the times. We live in a very technological society. We're at the cusp of even more space travel. So it doesn't bother me so much as far as that goes. I'm very against Starlink as a person, as a human being, mostly as an astronomer, though, right? I have a little bit of a bias there. I'm just not a fan of the whole project at all. I love SpaceX, don't get me wrong, but I am not a fan at all of the whole Starlink thing, which is probably not a popular opinion, but that's just how I feel.
Well,
I
actually,
feel like,
and it's the first time I've heard that. So can you like maybe tell me a little bit more about your reason?
yeah. My main reason is not the amateur side of astronomy at all. It's the professional side of astronomy that I'm very worried about. And it turns out I have some colleagues that are professional astronomers that are extremely worried. The Vera Rubin telescope, which has just recently been named, it was the LSST, the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, or whatever it was. It's going to be able to do, I think, the entire night sky every night. I think it's a massively wide field survey telescope. They're going to take picture, move, take picture, and they're going to grid the night sky every night. So sort of the age of like amateurs discovering comets and asteroids is pretty much over, because they're going to be discovering everything. This telescope is massive. It's the largest CCD in the world. I think it's like the size of a Buick or something. It's like billions of megapixels, which is insane. So I'm worried about them because they're going to be getting a lot of false positives with the Starlinks. Hopefully there's some kind of relationship they can form with Starlink and SpaceX to try to map these things out. I mean, we already can map them out. You can go to heavensabove.com and track these things all that you want, right? But there needs to be some collaboration between the companies that are going to be launching these things and the astronomers who are doing actual science that's going to change humanity. And another aspect of that I'm very worried about is radio astronomy, which I hear almost nobody talking about. Those satellites, from what I understand from my radio astronomy friends, are broadcasting on a very, very similar wavelength to what they are looking for. And I'm not even just talking about SETI or some of those guys. I'm talking about pulsar, people that are studying pulse, people that are studying just radio sources in general in the sky. There's going to be a grid of satellites broadcasting radio waves down towards Earth at a very high power. This is going to be an issue. So they're going to have to do their observations sort of around this. Imagine a visual astronomer and somebody said, hey, I'm going to put 15,000 full moons in the sky. They're going to be circling the Earth, and there's always going to be about 6 full moons in the sky at a time. We would lose our minds, right? I mean, because we would no longer be able to see the Milky Way, some of these other things. And so there has to be some kind of give and take. Now, SpaceX has taken some steps to sort of darken these satellites. I don't know if it's enough. It may be too little, too late, or it may be just the right recipe. I don't know. I'm just the launch just before the crewed launch to the ISS. It was amazing, and so it's one of those things that's like, it is what it is, I guess, and we just got to kind of have to deal with it, I guess, as it goes.
So I hadn't heard that about the radio astronomy. That makes complete sense. So despite what they do on the optical front, you'll always have the radio issues. But your objection to Starlink is purely from its effect on astronomy, not something else.
No, I'm fine with billionaires pursuing other lines of revenue for themselves. I'm fine with that. That's their money. That's the society we live in. What I'm not fine with is the launching cars into orbit You know, the last thing we need to do is put more stuff up there than we need, right? You know, I feel like anything that's up there should be regulated heavily by an international group. Um, I feel like there should be some, you know, collaboration there, but you know, between spy satellites and you know all this stuff, it's just one thing after another. So it seems like there's no end in sight. So you know, I'm fine with it. I enjoy seeing satellites, you know, the flashing ones where you're like, whoa, what was that? You know, the tumbling rocket bodies and stuff. Those are always fun because, you know, people are like, hey, I saw this. I get this all the time now. Hey, I saw a really bright light followed by 10 other ones, evenly spaced going across the sky, no lights on the bottom. And I'm like, Starlink, you know, and I send them a link and to an article or something. And they're always like, oh, you know, they're like, I know why you messaged me. You wanted it to be UFOs and aliens, and I busted your dream. I'm sorry, but you know, I always say this: reality is much stranger than fiction. You know, so you can believe in Bigfoot and all that stuff, and I think that's fine and great. I don't personally subscribe to any of that stuff, but you know, go look for it, study, test it, see if it's out there. But you know, reality is always stranger than fiction. So the fact that, you know, that it's just a bunch of satellites that are going to be broadcasting Wi-Fi, people kind of, they're like, oh, but you know, it's still pretty cool to see it when it goes over. And like you said, you haven't got a chance to see it yet, but when you do, I think you're going to be, you know, pretty like, wow, like what's, you know, because you'll see one and then another and then another, and slowly over time, maybe 10 or 15 go by. It's pretty cool.
So about us returning to the moon in 2024, when did you find out about it?
I think I'd been hearing things a while before that, but you know, that we were obviously going back with Artemis and everything. Artemis has been, before it was Artemis, it was Orion. Remember back in the day, it was you know, the SLS, the Space Launch System, which is so aptly named. So I've been hearing whispers for a while, and I think kind of when I got the official word from Bridenstine, we were at Artemis Day. So there's these little things called NASA socials that you can do. They're free. You just sign up, and if they accept you, you go. You have to pay for your own way to get out there and all this stuff. And but one of them that we did was the unveiling of the core stage for Artemis 1, which is the big tank body with 4 space shuttle engines on the bottom. There's a facility in New Orleans. Okay, so it was like right on the verge. It was either Mississippi or New Orleans. It's in New Orleans, called Michoud Assembly Facility. They did all the Apollo stuff there. It's a massive building. It's the biggest building I've ever been in my life. And they had the core stage for the SLS on its side, fully assembled. So they invited a bunch of us NASA social people out there, and we got to do a news conference sort of with Jim Bridenstine and some other NASA employees. And it was really cool. I mean, because there's the rocket right there, you know, and it was just laying on its side and sort of just chilling there. And they were trying to do tests on it, and we were annoyingly slowing them down. You know, you could tell the workers were kind of annoyed with this, but hey, it was like, I mean, there was NASA officials there. The head of NASA was there. I got to meet him. Jim Bridenstine, very nice guy, actually, very super nice guy, very down to earth. I was very impressed by his I don't want to say bedside manner, but you know what I mean, like when you meet him in person. Very nice guy. And that was sort of when I caught the vibe, at least, that yeah, we are attempting to go back in 2024, and I hope we make it. I feel like we may be a year or two late. But that's just my personal opinion, because there's always delays, man. You know how it is. Like something we've broken James Webb Space Telescope how many times? It's been just sitting on the ground, you know, because we were supposed to launch it, I think, last year, and then it was this year, and now it's definitely not this year. So it's like, it's just kind of like one thing after another with the space, because it's, you know, it's rocket science. People have that term for a reason. It's not easy at all. So I'm really hoping Gateway goes forward, and we can do Gateway, which is of course the space station around the moon, which would be very cool, to be able to go there, wait, get your stuff together and then go down to the surface and get back on the moon, because we need to. I desperately want to be a part of a generation who has been to the moon, and you and I are not.
And neither
I
is
don't know.
Jim.
Right? Yes, exactly. Because he brought that up, actually. Exactly right. Because he's a younger guy. So you're exactly right. So it's time. It's time we go back. We did it for the first time for maybe not the best reasons. We went to gain the high ground. That's known. That's like everybody knows that's why we did it. We did it to beat the Russians, and we did. Mission accomplished, right? And we did some incredible science. I mean, we now know, you and I now know, that the moon is moving away from us at a certain rate every year, because we went there and we put a bicycle type reflector on the moon. And from here in West Texas, we shot that reflector with a laser.
Oh, y'all did that?
Yeah, right here in West Texas at the McDonald Observatory, the 107 inch, 108 inch Harlan Smith telescope. It's the big one up on the mountain out there. And they shot the laser with it and detected the light, did the calculations, and realized, the moon was about a light second and a half away. Of course, we knew that when the astronauts went there, and between the delay, when you hear them talk and they release the mic, there's about a second and a half delay. So we kind of knew, but now we know to like the centimeter or something crazy because of that reflector, the retro reflector. And then there's seismic stuff. We brought moon rocks back. So we learned so much about the geological composition of the moon. And just imagine, that was like 60s and 70s technology that we were going out there and coming back with. Imagine the type of science we can do now. Go into those crazy, weird places that had the orange soil. Like, what is that? Are those organics, or is it maybe some type of oxidation, some type of iron deposit that's oxidized somehow? Who knows, but we need to get back on the surface of the moon and do more digging, like actual digging with humans. And we're doing that on Mars with rovers, and that's fun. But when you send humans, it's a whole different ball game, because a human can notice things that a rover and a team on Earth may not, so there's a human aspect to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd like to talk to, one is just the ability to make an observation, manipulate something, make an observation, and the kind of like the speed of that cycle allows for you to do kind of on the spot discovery, as opposed to make an observation, send a command that gets executed 2 hours later, and then reobserve. But I'd like to talk to people about the importance of sending people versus machines, because a person is able to take in and have an emotional experience, the whole perspective.
That's right.
It's like standing next to a really tall building and trying to take a picture of it and then showing that picture to somebody else. They will never appreciate how tall that building is.
Oh, I lost you there for a second. Sorry, man.
No worries.
I don't know what the deal with my internet is today. This is crazy.
It seems cyclical.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is? I think it's AT&T that I'm using, so they're probably like, "You're using too much data." So I'm sorry. Continue with that part of it. I missed some
Oh
of it.
yeah, no trouble. So it's like being next to a tall building. You take a picture and show that to somebody. Nobody realizes it's a tall building, or a deep cavern, or like the Grand Canyon. Like you could never appreciate the Grand Canyon from a picture.
Exactly. I can show you the moon all day long from my cell phone. That's how I do my Facebook live streams and stuff. Believe it or not, I set up a regular refractor telescope and I put this where your eyeball normally goes, it works fantastic. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning, the views you can get nowadays just putting a cell phone on an eyepiece. It's ridiculous, but I can never recreate with that camera, like you said, the detail, the resolution. The resolution coming into the camera is infinite, and then it's finite, down to whatever megapixels this is.
And then don't forget about the compression of the transmission, and then the reduction from the display of whoever's looking at it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's Wi-Fi involved, and then there's Facebook's compression. I'll upload a 4K video to Facebook, and I get the upload is 720p. It's like, what? Like you didn't take half my video. So there is a loss there, and like you said, there's an emotional reaction when you're standing on another surface of another world. There's a visceral reaction. You're there. You're touching things. You're picking them up. You feel it in your hand, even though there's a glove in the way, right? Whatever. And then those humans come back to Earth, and they write books, they do lectures, and they take that experience for people like you and I and everyone maybe watching to bring us there with them. Even though, like you said, it's kind of like us seeing a picture. We could never truly understand what riding on a rocket is like. I'm sure it's the most incredible experience. I mean, you fly, so you know that when you rotate, you're flying. That's a special feeling because you're flying into the air, and it's something that people that drive cars will never ever understand unless they jump a ramp or something in their car, which is probably not a good idea, because what goes up comes down, right? So it's one of those things that sending humans is absolutely imperative. We can send robots and probes all day long, but there is an absolute necessity to sending humans. And there are humans on this planet that are ready to go right now. They have the training, the physical ability. They're Air Force pilots, they're engineers, they're geologists. They're ready to go. It's just that we're money and time constraints that NASA faces. It's really just the money thing. It could have brought us a lot further. I think, like everyone says, even Neil deGrasse Tyson and people like this, if we triple NASA's budget, they would have been everywhere in the solar system basically by now, with probably even people. But we spend more on defense and things like that, and that's just the way our government goes, and you and I have no control over that. So it's one of those things that it's kind of a progress meets necessity, and kind of they just kind of fight for viability there at some point. But I think it's absolutely imperative that we get humans back on the moon, and especially Mars. America needs to be the first to Mars. Just because I'm a proud American. I love America. I love our country. We're not perfect, but we are a great place to live and work and be. I didn't get a choice in the matter. I was born here. So, it's not like I got to I want to live in here. It's not like that. So it's just where I was born, and I love it here, to be honest with you. And I feel like we should be the first. So.
What do you think about, have you heard of the Dear Moon project? That Japanese billionaire that's sending a group of artists around the moon in 2023 on a SpaceX, Starship.
Yeah, I've heard of some of the stuff that they're trying to do, and hey, I'm all for it. Starship scares me right now. And they keep blowing it up down there in Boca Chica, which is pretty cool that they're doing it down here in Texas now. I'd always secretly hoped that SpaceX would do something with Boca Chica and come down and do some rockets. Perfect place to take off. I mean, you can fly east, and all you've got is the Gulf of Mexico below you. So it's a perfect place to sort of launch and get out there, and better, or at least in some respects, it's like number 2 past Florida. Obviously, Florida has the most wide open area to the east, so you always want to launch yourself east, basically, if you can, save fuel, save energy, and stuff like that by launching yourself the direction the Earth is going. So, it's pretty cool that they're doing that stuff down here in Texas. I'm gonna watch those with extreme interest, because it sounds like an awesome thing. Now, even if somebody paid for me to go around the moon in Starship, I don't know. Starship, I don't know. There's something about that. Now, Falcon 9 and Dragon and all, man, those things are proven perfect. They have a perfect flying record. There's not, they had a couple of mistakes on the uncrewed stuff, the explosions, and everybody goes through, it's rocket science. It's not easy. Starship, I don't know, until they get a few dozen unmanned or uncrewed missions under their belt. I don't know, but I'm rooting for them, man. Like I said, I love SpaceX. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it was overdue. You know, I think the private industry should have came about probably in the 80s or 90s even. You know, I think we waited a little too long for that. But, you know, we needed people like Elon and people like Jeff Bezos and what's his name, Richard Branson or the guy from Virgin Galactic. And we needed these guys because they have more money than they ever could possibly spend on yachts and islands and, you know, whatever. They could probably buy Florida. But they're not. They're spending their money on rockets. And if I was a mega gazillionaire, I'd probably be playing with rockets too, to be honest with you.
So what do you think the future of humanity is like? I mean, do you think a moon base is inevitable? A city on Mars is inevitable? The moons of Jupiter, Saturn, like, are we stuck on the Earth forever? Like, where do you see the future?
That's a good question, man. I think, and this is all personal opinion, I think humanity is looking for I think we need something that's going to unite us first before we can ever become a spacefaring civilization. I feel like there's too much division. Even if you just come down to America, there's too much division here. There's too much science denial. I mean, especially right now, and I know you've seen it, there's just denial that there's maybe even a virus out there, which is horrifying to me. There's denial that the earth is round with some of these people. You know, there are flat earthers out there, but whether you and I want to believe that or not, there are people that believe that this ball that we live on is actually flat, and you know, it's crazy. But I think we need something to unify humanity before we become a fully fledged spacefaring species. Now, I say all that to say that we've been in space for continuously as a species for the last two and a half decades on the International Space Station, right? We've had 6 or 7 or so astronauts at a time on the ISS constantly, period. You know, we're in space, but we're in like, we're like toe deep in the ocean. You know, we're just out there barely playing, like, you know, kind of laughing and having fun. We're mostly building sandcastles on, you know, on shore, right?
It's almost even worse than that. We just have our foot above the water.
Yeah, we're barely dipping our toe in there, you know, and because we don't have the technology to swim yet. You know, we're just barely wading in. I think Carl Sagan made that sort of analogy famous back in the day, and he's right. You know, I wish we had a Carl Sagan these days, besides maybe Neil or some of these other guys that are just as good. But I wish we had someone as eloquent and as awesome as Carl, because he was just the man. But I see us in the next decade for sure getting back to the moon. Within, you know, I think it'll be 2030 before we get to, or 2035 even, before we get to Mars. It's just exceedingly hard. You know, Mars, I think, is like over 90 million miles from here. The moon is only 250,000. It's right in our backyard. It's right there. Literally, it's like a little sandbar 6 feet off the shore, as our analogy goes. And we've been there only a few times because it's exceedingly hard and it's exceedingly dangerous. And it's right there. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, 250,000 miles or so is a long walk. But we've proven that we can go there, and we can put landers on there, and we can rove around and have fun. We put people on there and had fun and stuff. But it's extremely expensive. You know, all the Saturn V rockets were all one-offs. They were all built to fit and work for themselves. You know, you couldn't really interchange parts too well. They were built for themselves. And that technology still exists. But at the same time, we have to go a different direction with our rockets now, because those old plans, they don't really work anymore. You know, we're not trying to just be a bullet to the moon, right? We're trying to do things in the ISS and things up above that, you know, high Earth orbit, things like that. So, you know, honestly, long-winded answer. I feel like we need something that's going to unify us as humanity all of us, the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans, the British, everybody. We almost need first contact, with another civilization to be like, okay, either they're the enemy or they're the other. We need that other, because that we've evolved with that, right? Like we're a tribe and they're the others, so we don't. Y'all are very primitive compared to what we can do. So y'all are going to do what we say, right? Um, so yeah, I feel like as a species, we need to be unified in some way before some of this will happen. But we're still, like we said, we're still dipping our toes in it, I guess.
But does space offer the opportunity to be that thing? I mean, in the sense of, you know, you talked about America needs to be first to Mars. What was the international kind of collaborative type effort?
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I think it may even require that. The space station is, I forget how many nations run the space. Japan, Russia, obviously, us, a lot of the, Great Britain, Canada, things like this. The only real nation that's not really super involved is maybe China, maybe some of the others. So yeah, I think if we did that, if we did it with JAXA and DLR and all these other foreign space agencies, with NASA, with even SpaceX, our commercial or our privatized rocket, if everybody kind of works together, I don't see how we could fail at this. We have the technology to get us there. We have the rockets. We're certifying those rockets right now, like Falcon Heavy and things like that. I just I feel like we all need to do better with empathy and be more empathetic towards each other, to where we can work together for science. Because until we stop trying to survive with each other, when surviving with each other becomes easy, then exploration becomes a necessity, because we get bored, right? Right now we're trying to survive with each other, so we're like, at a cold war with whatever nation, right? We're just like, we're kind of annoyed with this nation, whatever. But when surviving with those other nations becomes easy, I feel like that's when humanity really branches out, and explores. Life in Europe was easy-ish, and that's why you saw these explorers setting sail. People like Columbus or whoever you want to name. I just brought up an example there, but they were bored. They were like, I want to go explore this great planet of ours because ain't nobody been over there. Let's go over there. Let's see what's out there. But life was sort of at a stable point. Nobody was trying to survive for the sake of surviving, right? So I think we need that. I think we need a little bit of stability and a little bit of collaboration, and I think we can easily do it. I think it's more than attainable.
What do you think are the steps that we need to go to get that kind of stability? I mean, like,
yeah, that's a question for a Nobel Peace Prize guy right there. I'm just a dude with a telescope, unfortunately. But again, I would say empathy, removal of pride. Especially now, there's a lot of pride with our leaders all over the world. Whether it's Putin, whether it's the guy that runs China, whoever. There's a lot of pride in those positions, and I feel like sometimes people are people. They let that get in their head, and they get the inflated egos and things. So I feel like if everybody had a nice big chunk of humble pie, something like that anyway, and we just we had something that unified us for some reason, I think it would be exceedingly beneficial for humanity. If we all just took a step back and said, maybe we aren't the best at this, you're really good at this, and we're really good at this. So if we work together, we can blend those and do a thing. Now, do I think that will happen before we reach Mars? No. Or the moon again? Absolutely not. Those are very close goals. What I'm talking about is maybe 30 or 40, 50 years into the future, where a Star Trek style society is formed and everybody is chill. There's no more wars. We're all just kind of, we're bored. We're like, well, we need to go up there and explore that, and so we start going to Europa or Titan. Oh, I can't wait till we go to Titan. I think those methane lakes and the raining organic material on Titan is going to be, that's going to be a whole game changer right there. I think we'll definitely discover extremophiles of some type there. But Enceladus, Europa, I mean, come on, there's got to be something living under that ice, right? I mean, who knows? But we need to go find out. And the only way we're going to do that is to work together, I think, as a globe, because it is round, y'all, no matter what some people say on YouTube.
But I mean, just talking about the moons of Jupiter that you were talking about, it's amazing how different they are. I mean, unlike the two moons of Mars, which are very similar. I mean, it's just like it's
Yeah,
such an amazing
Phobos and
collection.
Phobos and Deimos are probably just captured asteroid type objects, probably even from the asteroid belt, even, who knows? Or they could be remnants of impactors, kind of like our moon is. But you're right, the diversity of Saturn and Jupiter's moons is just staggering. And then every year, it's like, oh, Saturn has 36 moons. No, it doesn't. It has 48. No, it doesn't. It has 72. We just keep discovering more and more. Every time we go, it's like, oh, what's that? Well, that's not, we never knew about that, and so it's like, that's why we go, because our knowledge increases, and that's going to increase the likelihood that we find life or organic molecules arranged in a pre-RNA stage. All of this is incremental, I think. And like you said, we can't just go out like deep sea fishing for our first, time offshore. We got to go to the sandbar and hang out on the sandbar and get sunburned a few days before we like, okay, well, I heard there's like an oil rig or something out there we can go to. Okay, well, let's, we finally got the technology. Let's send one brave soul out there, and if they come back, whatever. So I feel like there's, we have to make those small steps for mankind before we can get further out there. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, it really is. And there's some people that are saying, hey, why are we spending this money on exploration and going to the moon when there's all these pressing problems on Earth? And I was wondering, how do you kind of help these people see the value in it, or is it even worth trying? Is it about trying to recruit the people that already see the value and kind of amplifying them, or is there really a case to be made of trying to educate the public and bringing more people over?
That's a great question. I think there is. I absolutely do think there is. I think it's actually imperative, because you do get those people that are like, oh, well, why are we spending billions on the space station when we've been up there for decades and blah 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 blah, and but those are the type of people that they see the expenditure and they say, oh, we could spend that on cancer research or defense or whatever else they think that we should spend it on. But those people, the only reason they believe that, and because you and I we have a broader perspective of this whole thing. We understand that some of the technologies that we have in our phones were invented and developed because we had a need to spy on other nations or do science in space. I mean, like, space age technology is not a term just because it's a fun, conglomeration of words. Velcros and zippers that are airtight and things like this that, would have never existed had we just, moped around here on planet Earth for our existence. But the challenge of going to space was so immense and so just unfathomable that it required, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So it was required that we come up with all these technologies before this even became a thing. I mean, Werner von Braun invented the rocket for horrible reasons, right? He was under pressure from Hitler Germany to build a weapon that they could terrorize the world with, but we flipped the script as humans did. Obviously we still use it for a weapon, rockets and things, but now it's that weapon put us on the moon. Now, what had Werner von Braun probably thought of that back in the day, he would have probably been much more excited about what he was doing, especially before we brought him over here to make our rockets for us, the Saturn V and all these. But it's amazing how as a species we took an invention of war. The telescope actually was an invention of war. If you go all the way back, I forget the name of the guy in the Netherlands that invented it, Johann something. Back in the 1600s, he invented the telescope, and it was a military application. You could see ships and their flags way before they could see you and your flags. So you knew whether or not you needed to get battle ready, or whether or not they were carrying the Black Plague, or whether or not whatever. And then Galileo took this weapon of war and made it and took it and pointed it up and changed the world, period, full stop. Of course, there were others who did the same thing. And then, of course, Isaac Newton came later and said, yeah, this is a cool telescope, but I'm going to reinvent the whole optical train. I'm going to use mirrors instead of glass, which, I mean, dude, all the major research telescopes around the world are all reflectors now. They all use a mirror or a couple of mirrors and, the cameras. So Isaac Newton's invention 400 years ago stands to this day. Imagine, some of the technology that we've invented these days, or at least in our lifetime, that will stand the test of time. So I think it's important to educate those people who are like, well, what am I going to benefit from years of space? Well, you make calls on satellites. You send a text message and it goes through the network, it bounces off satellites and goes to your friend in Europe. That wasn't just invented because humans were having fun, like champagne. We accidentally discovered champagne one day. I was like, oh, cool. This was a focused effort to put us in space and learn. And then the private sector just got to benefit. Like, hey, I can make your camera 10 times smaller. Really? Okay, cool. Let's do that. And then, people started jumping on those things, so it's stuff like that. And I feel like you and I may not benefit from some of the technologies that are being forced into invention right now, but people who come later absolutely will. Absolutely. But we're building that infrastructure now. And we're doing those inventions now. Without space exploration, there's no reason to invent this stuff, So I think it's imperative. It's an absolute necessity. And I mean, to just tell people that, there's a website, I can't remember exactly what it is or whatever, so you might have to just Google it, but it's like, what has NASA done, or what does NASA do, or something like that. For when people bring that, well, what good is NASA? They haven't done anything since the shuttle program. Well, Earth science is like their main thing, their main focus after shuttle. And here's what we know about Earth thanks to NASA. So here's that information, they invented this technology it wasn't around before. So here it is, use it as your own, because now it's in the public domain or whatever, so stuff like that. I think a spacefaring species will only ever benefit from being a spacefaring species because of the technology and the push to keep getting better and keep going further. So,
and I mean, if you take something as fundamental as like the discovery of electromagnetism back 200 years ago, I mean, that was done by astronomy, and you wonder, what are some fundamental observations and things that we could learn just by simply taking a little small step away from Earth, and have people like experience this new environment and look at things in a new way.
Sure, yeah. I mean, dude, one thing that pops into my head is all the solar telescopes we put into space. You know, those were billions of dollars that we just launched away into space. But we wouldn't have SOHO, the Solar Heliospheric Observatory, I think is what it stands for. We wouldn't have SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory, which are just telescopes in space that observe the sun. I think it's a pretty important idea that we know exactly what the sun is doing 93 million miles in that general direction. Because if one day the sun decides to just blow off a massive coronal mass ejection at us, we at least want to know that it's coming, you know, and we've seen things in the past like the Carrington event, you know, which, you know, that was back in the telegraph days where you had to send Morse code, you know, to your neighbor so that they could understand a message from you. Those things were set on fire, some of those little Morse code stations, because of the massive amount of energy that was released from the sun during the Carrington event. And someone was watching it. I think it was, I forget his first name, but the guy Carrington, it was named after him, because he was actually observing the sun when that solar flare blew off the surface, the coronal mass ejection. It was pointed right at us and got here within a few hours, and it completely disrupted communications. It fried communications. It did crazy things, and they weren't ready for it. So, you know, like you said, the discovery of electromagnetism, the discovery of helium on the sun, you know, and that's the main thing, that it's sort of emitting light in that spectrum. That's huge, because that tells us what the sun is made of. We actually got to like taste the sun without actually even going there, because all we did was run its light through a prism. We got its rainbow, and then we saw, oh, there's places where it's darker and brighter along the spectrum. Well, that must be where it's absorbing light and where it's emitting extra light. And then we're like, well, let's look at that star. Whoa, completely different spectrum. It's like the lines are in completely different places. And all we're doing is taking a piece of glass with a telescope, which is glass, and we're just kind of like running the light through this, and it's telling us so much about the universe that we had no idea before, that enhances our lives here on Earth exponentially, you know. So you know, it all boils back down to that. You know, I mean, you and I are biased. We are space geeks, right? We're space nerds. Everything to do with space, we love it. But at the same time, I feel like you and I and the people that are watching this are rooted in that, because we understand, we have a perspective that what we do, even as amateurs, even as just mild observers, is, you know, we are looking at our planet through the lens of looking away from it, which is giving us a perspective that we are an insignificant nothing in the middle of nowhere. And so we should cherish that. We may be, you know, the Fermi paradox, you know, we may be the only life that got to this point. If it's that rare, we need to cherish it extremely. And we're not doing that, you know? So I feel like the perspective is what really is to be gained by people like you and I, but to the world, it's stuff like microchips and cameras that are thinner than a piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that really is the evidence, the tangible evidence of all that money we've thrown at space. It's not wasted. I promise those that are on the fence about it, it's not wasted.
Yeah, indeed. Definitely kind of biased myself, of course. But if it was safe and affordable, would you go into space yourself?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, it depends on, well, there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of personal minimums. As you know, as a student pilot, we have to develop these personal minimums of when we will go or no go. You know, the weather has to be, you know, clear of clouds for me to even want to go step into a plane. If the ceiling is anything below 5,000 feet, I'm not going. You know, I don't want to get anywhere near the clouds, because that's what kills most pilots, right? Flying from visual conditions into the clouds where you can't see anything. So, you know, the question is, if it's affordable, I have a, and I've been, it's a great question because only recently have I even been contemplating this. Because before it was like, oh, I'd have to be a Navy pilot. I'd have to go directly into NASA after being a Navy pilot. I'd have to train for decades. They'd finally put me on a mission. I've never, that ship has sailed for you and I basically. But the ship that hasn't sailed for us is the Titanics and those ships that are like, hey, you just pay a fee and you can come with us. But the problem is those Titanics, right? You know, this ship's unsinkable. It's not going to sink unless you run it down the side of an iceberg, you know? So this is a problem. So I'm kind of like, yeah, my knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, I'm right next to you. Let's go. You know, especially if somebody like GoFunded me, you know, it's like, okay, it's $150,000 to go around the earth 20 times. Okay. I'm probably not going to pay that. I'm probably going to opt out because that's a huge chunk of change. That could be for you and I. That could be a really nice airplane that you and I could buy and maintain for years and enjoy it. Whether versus one, you know, trip around the globe or a few, whatever. So I don't know. I'm still very, very iffy on that. I don't know if I would step aboard one of those aircraft or one of those vehicles. Now, Falcon 9, if Mr. Musk said, hey, I want you to go because whatever, it's going to be free and you're going to ride to the space station, I'm going. Because even if I died in a blaze of glory on top of a Dragon or Falcon 9 rocket, you know, the risks are outweighed by the rewards of being one of the only, there's maybe a handful of private astronauts that have gone to the space station and things like that. So I think it's a question that really depends on the when, the where, the how, the why, and maybe even the who, you know. So I don't know. It does get my interest up though, that's for sure.
So, another way to look at it is the number of successful flights before, without incident. So let's say 1 million people took a Starship around the moon and came back. Would that be a safe enough level for you?
Yeah, I mean, once there's a safety record in place, you know, I hate to keep referencing piloting, but you know, you and I are basically, you know, student pilots again. The FAA regulates everything, as you know. I mean, the regulation book that we get as pilots is, you know, 9,000 pages thick, and that's because those regulations are written in blood. You know, at some point, somebody crashed a plane doing this. Well, now there's a regulation that says you can't do that, or if you're going to do it, you have to do it this way. So if you bring up the scenario, there's been 100 flights, no incidences. You know, they're certified for human flight. Yeah, you know, to me, that's the same as like, do I buy a Cessna over a Piper? You know, they both have similar safety records, but the Cessna safety record is a little bit less than the Piper. There's reasons for that, you know, so I'm weighing all those risks. We're good pilots, you and I, right? We weigh the risks involved. And we do everything we can to mitigate those risks. And if you do that, you're going to be just fine, you know? Rocket science is a whole different ball game. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that, you know, if it was that well proven and that well, you know, done, like again, I would ride on a Falcon 9 tomorrow if you told me. Would I ride on Starship? No. Would I ride on Blue Origin's ship? No. Virgin Galactic, maybe the one that goes up and does the wing thing, you know, maybe. But I'm absolutely not paying for it. So probably will never go.
Well,
Because
you're
I feel
not
like,
paying 250,000, but maybe you would pay 10,000, maybe.
yeah, now that's a different story altogether. Absolutely. 10 grand for some low Earth orbit time. Yeah, yeah, I'll write a candle for that. But again, you're gonna have to show me this amazing paper trail of safety and redundancy, and you have to have the redundancy to go to space. You really do. You have to have multiple radios, multiple escape methods, multiple this, multiple that. It's not, you're not just putting your life on one thread that if this fails, you're done. Nobody has ever been launched to space on one set of redundancy. Even back in the Gemini days, there was lots of redundancy. So yeah, I'd go, especially if you bought my ticket, and then I'm on board.
That's awesome. Well, did you have any topics you want to cover that we didn't get into?
One thing kind of move around, just get
If,
something, get a pair
if
of
you don't mind,
binoculars. And
could you repeat that because you
oh yeah,
kind of froze at the one thing?
yeah. The one thing that I will suggest for people is to just get out and observe the moon. And that aligns right with your project, because um, it, whether it's a cheap telescope or whatever, you're still going to get a very decent view of the moon. You may get frustrated when you try to look at Jupiter or Saturn in the same scope, but the moon is the closest world to us, that we can explore that's not Earth. You obviously can't go hiking on the moon yet, but you can take a journey through it with your telescope from your backyard. You don't need light pollution free skies. I mean, you can be in downtown Manhattan and view the moon, and it's actually even preferable. I don't know why it's actually preferable that you do that, because the ambient light around you is going to keep your eyes from dark adapting. So then when you go to the eyepiece, the moon doesn't blow your eye out where you're like, whoa, you kind of feel like you're looking into a flashlight where you're just like, ah. So sometimes, non-light polluted areas are preferable to looking at the moon. And, looking at a full moon is kind of boring, but looking at anything other than a full moon is absolutely just fascinating. From day to day, you'll see it change. You'll see this mountain range tonight, that's amazing, but tomorrow night looks completely different because the moon is slowly turning. Its rotation rate is 28 days, which is exactly the same amount of time it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth. So, and for that reason, one side of the moon always faces the Earth. It's what tidal or phase lock, as we call it. So you don't ever have to memorize the far side of the moon. You only have to memorize one side of the moon. Start with the big stuff. Start with the Maria, the seas, the Sea of Tranquility, the Sea of Fecundity, the Sea of Tranquility, or did I say that one already? The Sea of Serenity, and all those seas that we always hear about. Learn those. They're never going to go anywhere. They're never going to change. Just like the stars, Orion's never going to be a different shape in you or I's, or even our great grandchildren's lives. Always going to be the same. So if you learn it now, before you get a telescope, let's say, then when you get one, all you're going to be able to do is peer deeper into that thing you already know well. So just get out there, and if you don't have a telescope or binoculars, just go memorize the sky. Learn the summer constellations, learn the fall, learn the winter constellations as time goes on, and you won't forget them. You'll be like, oh, there's Orion. Everybody knows kind of Orion, right? You just look up like, wow, there it is. Learn the star names in it. They won't change, I promise you. Betelgeuse will always be Betelgeuse, no matter if it explodes or not. It'll still be Betelgeuse at the end of the day or night, whatever. So that's one thing that I try to kind of tell people to do, is to get out there and just observe. Go out there and just look, because I think it was Yogi Berra who said you can see a whole lot just by looking. And that is a hugely profound statement. People think you got to write stuff down. No, just go look and commit it to your memory. If it helps you to write stuff down, do it. but just commit it to memory however you can, and get out there and observe, because as one visual astronomer to maybe some more, it's exceedingly important that we get out there and look, because, you know, people like you and I can still make discoveries. You know, I don't know if you remember back in 2019 during the full lunar eclipse, there was an asteroid that hit the moon during totality. And I was one of 20 or so people on planet Earth that caught video of that. I am the only person that caught it in 4K resolution at 30 frames a second, surprisingly, because I was the only weirdo that went out and said, I'm going to video this entire event. So like, what, 4.5 hours, I ran a video camera on the moon and just videoed the moon. And I caught that impactor on the moon, which was, to you and I, it looked like a little flash of light gone. I would have never probably saw it. I would have been like, if I saw it, I would be like, what was that? But I caught video of it, which is so much more powerful. And that was one of my first viral videos on YouTube. I mean, it's like over 350,000 views or something right now, because I was, you know, published in Sky and Telescope because of it. I'm being put in scientific papers because they're using my video to study the instantaneous appearance of the thing, and then how it faded off over the 5 or 6 frames. After that, they can actually do calculations to, you know, for different trajectories, speed, size, those sorts of things. So even as an amateur astronomer, and all I was doing was videoing an eclipse, I contributed to the world of science in a hard, impactful way. Not to, you know, muddy the term of impactful, right? I mean, it was an impactful thing. It changed my life as an astronomer for sure, because I've always dreamed of like, oh, maybe I'll discover a comet, or you know, maybe I'll be the first to find a supernova in a galaxy. Like, I'll be like, that star's not supposed to be there, right? But it was a flash on the moon, and I caught it, and pretty incredible stuff, you know. So as amateurs, we can make a huge impact on the community, and not just the amateur community, but on the professional astronomy community. So get out there and observe. You never know what you're going to see, and you'll always learn something. I promise you that. I've been studying the sky since I was like 9 years old, and every time I go out, I learn something new. So just go do it. That's pretty much what I would tell a budding amateur astronomer, or you know, someone like that. So
Now, this event, you said only lasted about 6 or 7 frames?
yeah, well, 5 or so, because after the 5th frame, it's like, is it still there? Maybe. So that video is actually on my YouTube. It's actually a couple of different videos. What I did is, I videotaped the eclipse. Videotape, that's a hilarious term, right? I did it on a DSLR. There's no tape involved. I videoed the eclipse and put I sped the thing up, put it on YouTube. Cool. Made a little video about it on my channel. Neat. That was when 2 of my friends were like, hey, did you catch the explosion on the moon? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, and Sarah Silva and Becky Remitowski, 2 of my friends in astronomy, were like, hey, check your data. And I'm like, okay. And they sent me articles. And so I was like, oh my God, did I catch it? You know, and so I'm going through my video, and sure enough, it was there. And I was so excited. I mean, I was just like freaking out. I was in this very room, and I was like, yes, you know. And so I immediately made a video about, here's the impact. I was like, I knew I needed to just put the impact out. And I did it zoomed in and slowed down and zoomed out, you know, normal speed, you know, things like that. I just did it over and over again, so people watching could, you know, kind of get some sort of meaningful data out of it. And then I did another video where I overlaid the same moon from later that night, being unshadowed, if you will. So, and I laid the moons over each other to try to find the exact location of where that thing hit. And I got within, I think, about 100 or so, or 50 miles of the impact site. I think it was Lagrange crater, somewhere in that area. And I was saying Lagrange H, and I think they said Lagrange G or something. And if you know craters on the moon, the big crater is named Lagrange, and all the little craters in and around it are named Lagrange A, B, C, D, E. So I was very close. And that was just the amateur guy messing around with something that I happened to catch on accident, you know. And it truly was an accident that I caught that. Had I not been videoing the moon, had I been doing a time lapse of just images every once in a while, I'd have missed it, just like everybody else. But I didn't. I caught it on video in 4K, which allowed me to go way in. Like I can zoom way in. Now the moon is because the light from the sun is going around the Earth. I think I may have lost connection there a little bit. Sorry about that. I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. But anyway, the moon is a little blurry during totality. You know, so that kind of affected things. But the moon was blurry. Maybe the seas, you know, kind of had a diffuse edge around them. But that impact was pinpoint light because its light was self-illuminated, right? That kinetic energy was turned into thermal energy in a billionth of a second. So that produced a massive light show for us here on Earth, right? Not massive, just a little boop, you know. So, you know, it's an incredible thing, but you never know what you're going to get. Astronomy is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, but until you open the box and start trying stuff, you know, you're not gonna know what it's like, right? So, yeah, it's just one of those things that you got to get out there and do it. You know, people catch this stuff on Jupiter a lot. You know, these little flashes of a comet or a piece of asteroid going into Jupiter and causing a flash and things like this. But and they're caught on the moon too. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as often. These things are obscured by the brightness of the moon. You know, but it just so happened it was a full moon, but it was you know, an eclipsed moon, which allowed us to kind of see this impact. I don't think we would have seen it otherwise. So it's an incredible thing. I'm so glad I decided to go to that event. Like we hosted that at the Astronomical Society, Southeast Texas. That was an outreach event for us. So I had two telescopes out there. I had a visual. I had my 12-inch Meade light bridge just on the moon, so the public could kind of come up and look. And then I had my equatorial mount tracking the moon, doing the video. So I was killing two birds with two scopes, you know, and the public loved it. They came out and had a great time with us, and it was cold that night, but we had a great time. And so again, do outreach, do amateur astronomy, because every time you do outreach, it's going to change you as an observer, because you're going to have to explain this stuff to people that have no idea. Why does Saturn have rings? Well, it's because it has moons that kind of hold up the rings. You know, you got to explain this stuff to people because they don't know, you know, and the fact that Saturn has rings to them is a complete enigma. You know, it is to us too, honestly. But it's one of those things that, you know, we have that knowledge sometimes, how far away the moon is or this or that, but they don't. So you're giving them a little nugget of truth, and that can go a long way for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. The more they know, the more they appreciate. The more they appreciate, the more they want to know, and it's like a virtuous cycle.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Well, Will, I really appreciate your time. I definitely going to invest a lot more time exploring your videos and the Astronomy Club of Southeast Texas.
Yeah, come visit us. Our website is kind of in shambles right now. It's kind of burning to the ground slowly on the internet somewhere, because we've shifted to Facebook. So you and all your viewers and whoever else is more than welcome to come once a month. We have our astronomy meetings online, just like this. So we'll have one on the second Friday of this month, which is actually not this Friday, but next. And it'll be a discussion just like this. You know, we'll have some presentations and stuff, and you're more than welcome to come and just visit and tell us where you're from. We get people from all over the world now coming to visit our astronomy meetings right here in Beaumont, which, you know, it used to be just us 30 or 40 people go pile into the planetarium over here, you know, and study the sky together and have fun. So it's kind of you know, it's a blessing in disguise. You know, humans adapt and we overcome pretty well. And so that's kind of what this whole COVID thing has been for us as a club. We don't get to do the outreach we used to, But in a way, we're almost kind of doing outreach harder and broader than we've ever done it before with stuff like this, where we can get out and say, hey, you in the Netherlands, it's daytime over there, but it's nighttime here. We're going to talk astronomy, and come hang out with us, ask questions, get involved in the mix. And you're now a part of our club, just by coming and hanging out with us. And, my YouTube channel, deepskydude.com. For those of y'all that want to go there, I have tons of videos going back years now. The impact video is one of those. I have some other fun videos on there, how-tos and like reviews on some things. And my main work is star parties. Like I go to a star party and I film the whole time, and then I come home and I edit down like an hour and a half long documentary about that star party, basically, and just sort of a chronological journey of sort of my experience through it. So I encourage y'all, if you're looking to go to Texas Star Party, Okie-Tex Star Party, stuff like that, go watch my videos, and it'll give you a lay of the land and sort of a vibe of how the crowd is, and maybe what you should bring, like what kind of tarps for your under your scope, things like that. That's my main goal with those videos, is to try to help somebody who's never been to a star party go, because I want y'all to come out and experience it with us, and come meet us and hang out and come look at these galaxies, because I can only show 10 people, the same galaxy so many times before we're all bored with it, so like come hang out with us and come check it out. And I would love, if your followers subscribed on the YouTube channel. And again, I am on Spotify and iTunes, Apple Music, all those fun things with the music that I do. It's under the same name, Deep Sky Dude. So if you search Deep Sky Dude on Spotify or any of those, you'll get my stuff. I'm about to put out a new record. This will be my third space music album under that project title. Deep Sky Tunes Volume 3. That's to keep it simple. Instead of trying to figure out a name for each one of these records. No. Just Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. So we're coming up on Volume 3. I've already released 2 singles for that, which I'm very proud of right now. They're out there on all the stores, so you can go listen or get those. And I would really appreciate it if they did that. Just go give it a listen. You might enjoy it. It might be something you decide to turn on while you're out there looking at the moon. That's really what I designed this music for, was to be a companion for going out and observing, because I've always enjoyed space music while I was out observing. Because it just adds to the whole, when you're looking up and the sky is clear and you got your telescope and there's a little bit of spacey instrumental stuff going on in the corner. It just adds to the vibe. Try to think of your favorite movie without the music. It would be a boring, lifeless nothing. So imagine that that music kind of elevates your observing a little bit. Maybe for some it does, maybe for others it doesn't. But because I definitely can tell you that sometimes it's better just to go out and hear the crickets or hear the frogs or hear the whatever, and sometimes it's good to just get out in nature too. But my main thing is get out and observe, because it will change you for sure. So I would, follow me on those platforms. And if you're on TikTok, if you can deal with some of the security issues. If you're on Facebook, though, you're pretty much getting the same sorts of things done. But TikTok is a whole big platform, and I encourage people like you and other space communicators, science communicators, go get on that app, man, because right now it's just all these stupid dances and cat videos. People like you and I can change that whole platform by just going and uploading, a 1-minute space fact. Hey, did you know the sun is 93, stuff like that. So I encourage your listeners and followers to go out there and do that. Start a TikTok. Come find me and I'll try to help you. I've had an explosion of followers over there. I'm like 70,000 followers now, at 8-point-something million views. It's nuts. I can't even wrap my tiny human brain around how much exposure I've gotten over there, just because I'm not doing cat videos and weird dances and, pranks on other people. I'm doing like lunar stuff, Saturn stuff, and people enjoy it. So get on those social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, get on there, change the world, just like you're doing. I appreciate you doing what you're doing. This is an awesome project. I feel like, you doing an interview a day, or, that's intense, man. That's, I couldn't keep that kind of schedule, but you know, you're doing it, and it's great. And I think that if you keep doing it, you're gonna propel people, you know, to want to do something similar or something completely different, but in the same sort of vibe, you know, or same sort of genre, something about the moon, something about Jupiter or Saturn, you know, whatever. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I really appreciate you doing that. And stay the course, man. Just keep on rolling with it.
Sounds good. Yeah. If you look at the number of views and subscribers, is extremely disappointing. But my real audience is like, you know, the people in 2030, 2040 who are going, you know, what were people thinking back whenever we were just about to go back to the moon and we really began our first steps into the solar system? So I really see this as more of a time capsule type of exercise.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it, man. You're absolutely right with that. You know, people, you know, there's going to be documentaries made in the future, right? I mean, that's what we do. We make documentaries as people on, oh, look at this documentary on SpaceX and how they were a company, you know, and then whatever. So yeah, keep it going, because you know, and the subscriber thing can be very frustrating. I struggled so hard on YouTube. I'm still struggling over there. I only have 2,600 subscribers, which for me is a lot over there, because I have you know, through blood, sweat, and tears, I have clawed my way for every subscriber. You know, I mean, it's just I'd upload video after video and nothing, getting no subscribers. I'm getting 100 views. You know, and we can't really look at it like that. Like you said, you've got a good attitude about it, because eventually, one of those times, you're going to get this one person that's going to watch your video, or that's going to hear what you've made, or see the painting you painted, or that poem you wrote, you know, or whatever it is you do as a human creatively. That one person is going to see it, and they're going to share it on their platform, and your follower count is going to go through the roof. This has happened for me multiple times with great friends of mine that just they found my channel, or they found my social media, and they were like, I want to help you get more followers. And I'm like, thank you, please. And they would get me like 1,000 followers just from the people that love their stuff. You know, like, hey, here's this guy and he makes moon videos, or here's this guy and he does interviews about, you know, humans going back to the moon, or here's this guy or gal and she does paintings, you know, go check them out. And that can change your whole game. So, but if you have this backlog, you know, if you've just gone and done what you would do, imagine that you had 1,000,000 subscribers and you're just doing what you do. Eventually that point happens where that happens for you, and they'll watch every video you make in the future, but they'll also go back and view everything you did back in the day. And so you'll start seeing those view counts of that were, you know, 100 a month, or 50 a month, or 2 a month. You'll start to see those videos and or podcasts or whatever you're doing climb. I'm sort of seeing that with my music now. You know, I put out 2 albums and I was barely getting anything. But TikTok, it's a music app first and foremost. Which is why I love it. So that has completely changed my music. I mean, my plays on Spotify and iTunes and all those have gone through the roof, to where it became like this passion project where I'm like, hey, I'm having fun making music. I've always been a musician, you know, whatever. To like, hold the phone here. I might actually be able to like sell records during a pandemic, which is what's happening for me, which is insane to me. You know, people are broker than ever, you know, and they're out doing things because they need something. They need, you know, to fight off this mental, you know, the mental thing of being stuck in their house for so long. Keep going, man. You know, keep all your listeners. That's my main encouragement. Just keep doing what you're doing. Be true to yourself, and it will ring true with somebody. BB King has said once before that if your music or your videos or whatever, he was talking about music, but if what you're doing affects you in an emotional way, then it's absolutely going to affect someone else in an emotional way. They're going to have that same reaction you did, and they're going to be a fan for life. And that's how you build a fan base, or a following, or that's how you inspire the next generation, one person at a time. So that's my encouragement to, I know you're well on your way, man. You need very little encouragement, but maybe there's somebody out there watching this that's like, you know, I'm not getting much, you know, analytical views, and don't worry about that. Go make, go create. And like, just like, you know, the movie, if you build it, they will come.
Exactly. Your audience may not exist yet, but when they do, you'll be ready for them.
Yeah, and or they may exist and they may not have any idea you're out there. So the trick is to educate them and be like, yeah, I am out there and I'm making this, you know, so get out there and do it.
Well, Will, I really appreciate your time. I feel like we could talk all day. I found.
Totally.
Yeah.
We haven't even, you and I haven't even like gone into like pilotage, you
Oh,
know, which is like,
exactly.
you and I could probably sit here for 2 hours being like, oh, well, you know, looked into this yet or whatever. So,
I think
but
I
yeah, I
know where
appreciate.
I'm doing my cross country too.
Oh yeah,
Well, no, I mean
you're gonna
over
come
there
down.
too. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
gonna come down to Beaumont? Yeah, come on down. Let me know when you're there, and we can maybe do a flight of two one day. We'll just, you know, fly in formation. That'd be fun. But yeah, come on down, man. I mean, it's Texas is great for aviation. We have 9 million airports just dotted across the landscape, so there's plenty of places to go. And but again, yeah, man, thank you for having me on. You know, I always enjoy talking to fellow space enthusiasts, and so to come across somebody, our mutual friend Lisa, you know, who was a member of our Beaumont club here, she was the one who kind of got us connected, and I'm very glad she did. So thank you, Lisa, if you're watching out there. And you know, because people like us need to know each other exists so that we can work together, and you know, we can build this thing past us. You know, my videos are being put out there to educate, not to like build a following for me per se. Um, I don't care if I'm remembered. I want the work that I'm doing to have an impact on future astronomers, because that's going to live longer than the memory of me or you ever will. It's that inspiration of the kids that are 5 and 10 years old now that are going to be the people walking on Mars. You know, and they'll be like, man, I remember that guy that did those moon videos, you know, the moon interviews every day, you know, and stuff like that. They'll remember us. They may not remember our names, but they'll remember our work. And that's what's important. So you're doing a great job, man. And you know, I can't wait to watch your project and keep keep seeing the interviews as time comes along, because eventually we're going to be back on the moon.
I sure hope so. Well, thank you so much, Will. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you so much for having me. And we'll see you in the future, I'm sure.
Most certainly. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, man.